Shelly Bond, thank you for your time today.
You're quite welcome, Ollie.
I've got to ask, have you enjoyed this new experience in Portsmouth with Comic Con at Joe's put on?
I can't wait to go home. I've had a terrible time. Seriously? Am I being recorded?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the finest first shows I've ever attended. Everything from the location to this magnificent building to the staff. You know, Kurt was tremendous in showing us around and getting us water and making sure we knew where we were going. The setup inside was great. Joel organizing everything for us to come over here. And the fans, they are dedicated and they're all comics purists, and it was just wonderful. So happy to be a part of the first show, and I hear there's going to be more, so
yes, looking forward to it.
Very
Book my seat for next year.
Excellent.
On to Black Crown then. Congratulations on those first heady 6 months.
Thank you.
Congratulations on how well it's been received as well. When you went to IDW initially, was Black Crown part of the deal, or did that come afterwards?
Well, I'll try to be as brief as possible with sort of the genesis. When I left Vertigo, I received an email from Chris Ryle from IDW, and I had heard his name, but I would not have been able to pick him out in a police lineup. And I was surprised because he wrote me a really nice note and said, "Hey, I've been a fan of your work since you started at Vertigo, and I was sad to hear that your position was eliminated. If you want to stay in comics, please reach out to me at IDW." And I was really impressed that someone who I hadn't hired, hadn't fired, hadn't known personally, who was well respected in the industry, actually had the balls to reach out to me, and how kind and how wonderful was that. So I wrote back to him and said, taking the summer off to spend with family and to sleep and read and write, but you'll get my first resume. And so when September rolled around, I had Black Crown already worked out in my mind. So in addition to sending him my resume, which I had a lot of fun writing, I sent him my one sheet on what I thought Black Crown was going to be, and he loved what I was proposing, and it got better from there. I went to IDW and had an interview with Chris and Ted Adams and Greg Goldstein, and they were all terrific people, and I just knew that this was the right home for Black Crown.
I love the idea of it being a community. You've got the pub at its centre, like any British community used to have. You've got that wacky hotel suite, and I do spot a little record store as well in there.
Oh, absolutely. The record store, that is still, that is real estate that's been under construction, but you will absolutely at some point get to go inside, because the Atomic Turntable is owned by the Mike Allred.
Wow, I look forward to that then, if he's on the wheels of steel.
He sure is. And Mike, as many of you know, is such a music enthusiast, and his wife Laura always says that she thinks that Mike and I were separated at birth when it comes to comics and music, because we really are so simpatico. So when we first designed the street, I knew I had to reach out to him first to see if he wanted a piece of real estate, because I felt that I owed it to him. He was one of my first friends in comics. When I was working at Kamiko, he was living in Germany, and he would send a portfolio into Kamiko, and I would send him back, sadly, a rejection letter, but we started corresponding about Bowie through his submissions.
Wow.
So he's been a great friend of mine ever since, and Laura too. And I knew I had to offer him some place in the Black Crown landscape. So sure enough, he said, I would love to have the record shop. I'm going to call it the Atomic Turntable, to be continued. So
excellent.
We will hold him to it.
Really interesting. But moving into phase 2 then, it sounds from the panel today, you've got a couple of very exciting titles coming out with some very exciting creators, a bit old school, Sean Madison, a bit new school with Tilly Howard.
Sure.
Can you tell us first about maybe Howard's comic, or or start off with House Em Up or Euthanauts? Up to you.
Yeah, well, Euthanauts is launching first in July. and it's unlike anything you've seen in comics. The short pitch for it is Sandman meets Saga meets 6 Feet Under, and it's that, and then it's that twisted, and then it goes beyond, because it's all about this mortal coil. And Teenie Howard's take and philosophy and observances about life and death are extraordinary for a young woman. She's been in comics for a few years, but don't think anyone of her generation has tackled something so massive here. She has keen wit and sharp insight, and I've just found her pitch in general just to be astounding and unlike anything I've read. And I've read pitches for 25 years, as you know. So this one was like shining like a diamond, and I knew immediately I wanted to be a part of it. Getting Nick Robles involved was actually quite interesting, because it's a great case of when you hire artists you respect, they often have other artists that are like-minded. And in this case, Tess Fowler, who was working with me on Kid Lobotomy, actually introduced me to Nick Robles' work and said that he was really talented. And she was right. When I showed Teenie Nick's work, she was familiar with it and said, absolutely, I would love for him to be my collaborator. We sent him the pitch, and he was just as taken with Teenie's pitch about the series, and the rest is comics history.
Wow, and I really like the idea of an anthology, the quarterly, the Black Crown Quarterly. It's got a lovely British feel about it, no doubt because it's got a bloody pub in it, for God's sake.
Of course.
Where did that idea come from? Because obviously, third issue was out last week.
Yes.
It seems to be a great opportunity to showcase anything from How to Do Ollies to sort of new strips as well.
Oh, absolutely. The Black Crown Quarterly is a labor of love. Philip and I both adore working on it. It's very much a love letter to Deadline magazine and to Select, The Face, and ID, which were my favorite British publications in the 90s. Huge fan of art and design, love Jamie Reed, David Carson, lots of British stylists who took the industry by storm, frankly, in the 90s and really reinvented typography, art, and design, which is essential when you're producing comic books in modern times. People used to tease me and say that I was a frustrated art director, and it really annoyed me because being an editor, you're a Jill of all trades, master of everything. If you don't know how to do something, you figure out how to do it. And a big part of the job, in addition to wrangling people in and getting them to hit their deadlines and editing story, it's art direction, it's storytelling, it's perspective, it's chiaroscuro, it's fixing kerning on lettering, it's perfecting everyone's craft, including the art and design. And every book that I've edited since I started in comics, the logo design was as integral as a character arc within the comic. So to me it was natural to take something like the Black Crown Quarterly and make sure that on every single page, in all four corners, from panel to panel, everything was carefully placed and curated. So it's like having our own mini magazine. We get to showcase new talent. We have Dilraj Mann, who is an absolute art star. I read his work, Dalston Monsters, he put out through Nobrow, and knew I wanted him to be a part of it. So it's a great way to bring people in for short-term projects, and also to promote other talent through interviews, through crazy ideas like Hey Amateur, which is the last page you mentioned. It's a how to do anything in 9 panels, which has been a lot of fun. So we're able to pull in writers from other mediums. We had Cindy Whitehead, who was inducted into the Skateboard Hall of Fame 2016, and to hook her up with a young artist was quite exciting. So it's just been terrific. It's been kind of like a showcase for new ideas and new talent, and it's been a blast.
We'll grab one.
One last question, it's a personal question. When do we get to see more Kid Lobotomy?
Well, we from the get-go, had hoped that we could do more monthly series, but I think, as you know, the marketplace is just, it's unforgiving. So right now we're hoping that people pick up the trade that we have coming out on May 23rd, and we hope that once we get people initiated into the sweets and kid lobotomies crazy world, that they'll demand more. So we would love nothing more than to have another season, but it's going to be predicated on how well we can actually excite readers and get more people to.
I better get my drum out and start banging it anyway.
Please.
Then for that, yeah.
Please
and I will
do.
raise a pint to you tonight. Shelley, thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the stay.